After 40 years of loyalty, they handed me divorce papers at my retirement party, laughing as they stole everything I built. But they had no idea. I was about to destroy their lives without ever raising my voice. I raised my champagne glass under the shimmering lights of the Riverside Plaza Banquet Hall, surrounded by applause and praise that rang out like a well-rehearsed symphony. After 40 years at Portland National Bank, this was my moment. The culmination of a career built brick by brick through recessions, scandals, mergers, and market crashes. Smiles surrounded me, colleagues toasting, glasses clinking, the air thick with expensive perfume and fake admiration. But I wasn't smiling, not really. I could feel it, that static charge you sense right before lightning strikes. It came from the direction of the family table. My wife, Vivian, looked radiant, far too radiant. Her silver blonde hair shimmered under the crystal chandeliers, her posture flawless, her smile rehearsed. She kept glancing at me with a strange intensity that didn't feel like pride. Our daughter, Natalie, icy and polished in her designer suit, looked up from her phone just long enough to fake a warm expression. Preston, our son, tried to mimic sincerity, but failed. His grin faltered under the weight of something. Nerves? Guilt? I couldn't shake the feeling. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The division head's voice echoed behind me as I half-listened to his speech. To Maxwell Donovan, whose steady hand guided our investment department through 4 recessions and countless market crashes. We'd still be using paper ledgers and calculators, if not for your technological vision. More applause. More smiling faces. I nodded politely, murmured a thank you, and moved toward my family table. The applause followed me, but my focus narrowed as I approached the people who, for decades, I thought were my world. Vivian placed a hand on my arm as I sat. It was soft, cold, calculated. "We're so proud of you, darling," she said. Natalie and Preston exchanged a quick glance. Natalie reached into her purse and subtly adjusted her phone, angling it toward me. "Congratulations, Dad," Preston said. His voice cracked slightly. Was it excitement? Dread? "We have a special surprise for you." Vivian's eyes sparkled. "A little retirement gift," she purred, pulling a thick manila envelope from her handbag. She slid it toward me with the smooth grace of a predator. I didn't touch it at first. "What's this?" I asked, though my gut already knew the answer. "Open it," Natalie encouraged, tapping the screen on her phone as it quietly began recording. I broke the seal on the envelope, my fingers unnaturally steady. Inside, divorce papers, asset transfer agreements, pension disbursement forms, all perfectly printed, legal, final. "We thought we'd make this easy," Vivian said with a practiced air of sympathy. "Just one signature, and you can begin your new life, unburdened." Preston leaned in. "Your pension is ours. You get nothing." Natalie smirked. "Congrats on 40 years of wasting your life, old man." And just like that, the applause, the banquet, the celebration, they all dissolved into silence in my mind. A 40-year legacy reduced to ashes in the space of a single envelope. But I didn't flinch. I didn't scream. I didn't even blink. Instead, I pulled out the Mont Blanc pen Vivian had gifted me on our 25th anniversary. I uncapped it, slowly, savoring the irony, and signed every document with cold precision. "Understood," I said. They didn't realize that with each stroke of the pen, they weren't robbing me of a fortune. They were triggering a trap 15 years in the making. 3 days later, I vanished. No one saw me leave. No cameras caught my exit. By the time Vivian realized our joint accounts were empty and Preston found my office wiped from the bank system, I had already activated the plan I had codenamed Checkmate. They had underestimated me for so long, saw me as nothing but a dull banker with a dated sense of honor. What they never knew was that before the suits and the spreadsheets, I had worn another uniform. Army intelligence, psychological operations, counter-espionage. I had built my career on secrets and timing. And when I smelled betrayal all those years ago, texts between Vivian and Bernard. Holloway, my so-called friend and our financial advisor, I didn't confront them. I documented. For 15 years I listened, archived, recorded. Every call, every financial move, every shady deal. I built layers of defense, created shell companies, purchased properties under aliases, hid money in places even forensic accountants couldn't dream of finding. So when they came for my fortune, I let them. Then I took everything. From a secure apartment overlooking the river, one of 7 properties registered to names that didn't exist. I sat before 3 monitors and watched it all unfold. I saw Vivian's confused expression as she discovered every account frozen. Preston, panicking, calling former contacts. Natalie burning through favors only to find herself up against walls of encryption she couldn't bypass. "You're playing checkers," I whispered, watching them scramble, "while I've been playing chess." The hits came fast. Preston's employer received evidence of years of embezzlement, gambling debts masked as business expenses. Natalie was called before the state bar after an anonymous tip revealed she had buried key evidence in 3 different court cases that ruined lives. Bernard, bloated and washed out, received a notice from the SEC informing him of a surprise audit triggered by whistleblower reports. Also courtesy of yours truly. And Vivian? She discovered the house she thought she owned had been mortgaged again. Payments had gone unpaid. Foreclosure letters began arriving. She was still trying to sell the dream of financial freedom when the walls started caving in. Then came the note. Delivered by courier. 1 envelope. My handwriting. Chess has always been about anticipating your opponent's moves. You've been playing checkers your entire lives. The game has just begun. M. Inside was a photo. Vivian and Bernard in a hotel room. Dated precisely 15 years ago, the night of our 25th anniversary. Out of options, Vivian turned to the one person she never wanted to see again. My brother, Raymond. Raymond had built a fortune in construction through military contracts and still carried the commanding presence of a man who once led operations in war zones. When she begged for help, he just looked at her with contempt. "He knew," Raymond said, voice like stone. "He knew for 15 years. I told him to leave you, but he wouldn't. He said he wanted to wait, to see what you'd do when you thought he was weak. Now he knows." Vivian left his office a shell of herself, finally grasping the truth. She had never known me. None of them had. Days later, Bernard returned to his penthouse and found me waiting in the shadows. His face turned white. "How did you get in here?" he asked. "The same way I got into your emails, your accounts, your life," I said. "You really should have picked a better password than Vivian's birthday." He tried to run. I stopped him cold. "Sit. I'm not here to hurt you. That would be merciful." I explained the dead man's switch. Every 24 hours, I reset a timer. If I don't, everything gets dumped to authorities. Video files, recordings, financial trails. "You're bluffing," he whispered. I hit play on a recording. Bernard and Vivian, planning, laughing. I've been listening for 15 years. By the end of our conversation, Bernard was broken. Days later, he attempted suicide. He failed, but not before confessing everything, implicating Vivian in widespread fraud. Preston tried to flee. His passport had already been flagged. Natalie couldn't find work. Disbarred, blacklisted, every law firm mysteriously rejecting her applications. And then, on the 1-month anniversary of my so-called retirement, they received an invitation to what they believed was a settlement meeting. Instead, they walked into a media ambush. Reporters, cameras, and federal agents. A projector screen lit up with everything: documents, photographs, audio recordings. The room became a courtroom, and the evidence spoke louder than any judge ever could. I never showed up, just a video message. They handed me divorce papers, told me I was nothing, that my pension was theirs, that I had wasted my life. What they didn't know was that I had spent 15 years preparing. I signed those papers knowing it was the last time I'd ever give them anything. 6 months later, I sat on a private beach in Bali, drink in hand, watching the sun melt into the sea. Vivian was awaiting trial. Preston had accepted a plea deal. Natalie now greeted customers at a beachside restaurant. And Bernard? He'd become a government witness, turned on all of them to save himself. My secure phone rang. It was Raymond. They're facing sentencing next week. You coming back? I watched the tide roll in. No, I said. They've already taken enough of my life. Any regrets? I paused. Only that I didn't see them clearly sooner. I ended the call and deleted the last surveillance program I had on them. Their lives were ashes now, and I hadn't lifted a finger in anger. Just preparation, patience, checkmate. I turned off the phone, slipped it into the sand, and walked into the rising tide, leaving no footprints behind. Never mistake silence for weakness. The quietest ones often plan the deadliest moves. If this story hit you hard, don't just scroll. Like, comment, checkmate, and subscribe for more powerful true stories with shocking twists. And remember, always watch who's clapping when you succeed. Not every smile is sincere.